Trustee Healy. Here. Trustee Katsinas.
Here.
Trustee Malani.
Here.
Trustee Compass.
Here.
Trustee Reardon.
Here.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Here.
Mayor Peacock.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the November 1st, 2021 regular meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Katsinas.
I move to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustee meeting of November 1st, 2021.
Second.
Any changes? Call the roll.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Mayor Peacock.
Aye.
Proclamation honoring Heine's McCarthy's as Orland Park Business of the Month for November 2021.
So first, I want to congratulate Heine's for being Business of the Month, and I want to thank them for being in Orland Park for so long and being, kind of a staple of Orland Park. Also for having outstanding fried chicken and the best jumbo shrimp I've ever had. So, I'm going to read here the proclamation so you can have some history of Heine's. Whereas Orland Park Heine's McCarthy's originated in the mind of Henry McCarthy in 1947, and whereas Henry McCarthy, also known as Heine by his family, started his fresh fish store in Hammond, Indiana, after borrowing $500 from his brother-in-law, and moved from Indiana to Illinois. What a change that is. Whereas shortly after opening the business, a customer suggested he fry the fish and shrimp. This proved to be a great suggestion. Heine bought 2 fryers. They started calling the business Heine's Shrimp House, and business was good. And whereas Heine moved the business to 9134 Mackinac a year later, just blocks away from the U.S. Steel Mills in Chicago. Hours were long in those days. Heine with sons Eddie and Bob operated the store until 4 a.m. In 1965, they were able to build a new store down the street at 9101 Mackinac. When harassment for protection money began, they moved the business to 8450 Commercial and opened another one at 10359 South Torrance. And whereas Bob McCarthy, Heine's son, opened the Orland Parks location for his children, Tammy, Bob Jr., Denise, and Paul, in 1978. Having a family-owned business is challenging enough without having 4 siblings running the same location. In 1986, Bob Jr. opened the Chicago Ridge store, and a year later, another location in Tinley Park. And whereas business was booming so much so that the family thought the best way to keep growing was to franchise, the franchises sold quickly in Calumet City, Cicero, and Whiting, Indiana. But almost as quickly, the family came to the realization that selling franchises was not the same as selling chicken, fish, and shrimp. And they got out of that business of selling franchises and back into the business of selling chicken, fish, and shrimp, which we appreciate. And whereas Heine's McCarthy's in Orland Park is still a family-owned and operated 74 years and 4 generations later, they are doing well despite all the changes in the business has been through. And now therefore I, Keith Peacock, Village President of the Village of Orland Park, Illinois, and the counties of Cook and Will, do hereby extend the gratitude of the entire community to Heine's McCarthy's for more than 43 years of serving the community, and hereby proclaim Monday, November 15th, 2021, is Heine McCarthy's Day in the Village of Orland Park. And Orland Park's Business of the Month. Thank you. Congratulations. I hope so. I love And what I'd like to also add, let's talk about the South Lobby. I always hear in Orland Park, I always hear from residents saying, we don't have any small family-owned restaurants. We don't have any, all we have are corporate chains. And now granted, it's been a couple of years since I've looked at the numbers, but at that time we had 155 restaurants. And that includes fast food chains and everything. And that does not include the ice cream stores and coffee shops. We include those about 190. Out of those 155, 70 of them are family-owned like this. So we just have 22 square miles, and they're everywhere. They're not located in one location. So we do have them. You just have to know where to go to find them and look for them. So we have tons of family-owned, and the community benefits and thrives because of all these small family-owned businesses that have been here for decades. So thanks again for your service to the community. And do you guys have anything to add?
You've got it.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Does the board have anything to add?
I think I would concur that they have the best fried chicken and fried shrimp in Orland Park.
I'll second that.
Third.
There you go.
Call the roll. Call the roll.
All right.
Accounts payable approval.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Healy.
I move to approve the accounts payable from November 2nd, 2021 through November 15th, 2021 in the amount of $2,044,607.53.
Second.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pika.
Aye.
Consent agenda.
Consent agenda, item A, payroll approval. Item B, disposal of decommissioned information technology equipment ordinance. Item C, a resolution designating 15080 LaGrange Road as in need of redevelopment. Item D, a resolution supporting and consenting to a Cook County Class 7B real estate tax assessment classification for the property located at 15080 LaGrange Road in the village of Orland Park.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
I move to approve items A through D of the consent agenda.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pika.
Aye.
Email security and archival services.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
I move to approve of a 3-year contract with Insight Public Sector Incorporated through the Omnia Partners Cooperative Purchase Contract for IT Products and Services number 4400006644 with software, hardware, and services provided by Mimecast for a not-to-exceed cost of $84,000, and to authorize the village manager to execute all related contracts subject to village attorney review.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Mayor Pika.
Aye.
Orland Park Business Center lots 5, 6, and 7 ordinance.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Reardon.
I move to adopt an ordinance entitled Ordinance Granting an Amendment to a Special Use for Planned Development, Orland Park Business Center, lots 5, 6, and 7, 184th 04 South 116th Avenue and 11551 West 184th Place.
Second.
Have any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pika.
Aye.
Waterfall Plaza ordinance.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Malani.
Move to adopt an ordinance entitled Ordinance Granting a Special Use with Modifications for a Planned Development, Waterfall Plaza, 8750-52 West 159th Street.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Malani.
Just a quick question for staff. Recently, we had some complaints about the, from tenants and residents regarding this area, I believe, and we had to track down the owners to get them resolved. Were those all taken care of? There were issues with like weeds, overgrown, and things like that?
As far as the landscaping is concerned, they have been addressed, but we're consistently on our follow-up for code enforcement.
Okay,
And there was a series of improvements they submitted to us to subdivide a portion of the existing property, and there was a series of improvements that they are now required to, via the development agreement, to come into compliance with, in addition to normal code enforcement.
Okay, so the upkeep and maintenance, that'll be part of this?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pika.
Aye.
Contract for landscape architecture and wetland consulting services, consultant recommendation.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Radiszewski.
I move to approve awarding landscape architecture and wetland consulting services contract to Hay and Associates Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $50,000 per year, and I move to authorize the village manager to execute all related contracts subject to village attorney review.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Mayor Peacock.
Aye.
Resolution urging the Illinois legislature to pass HB 4176 to provide local law enforcement override of a felony rejection or designation of a felony as a continuing investigation by the Cook County State's Attorney.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Malani.
I move to adopt a resolution entitled Resolution Urging the Illinois State Legislature to pass House Bill 4176 to provide Cook County Police Chiefs local law enforcement override of a felony rejection or a designation of a felony as a continuing investigation by the Cook County State's Attorney.
Second.
Any comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Malani.
Just a couple weeks ago, while testifying before the Cook County Board, State's Attorney Kim Fox was asked if having more individuals charged with violent crimes out on electric monitoring would impact crime on the street, and she said no. But from 2016 to 2021, for example, there's been an absurd increase in the number of Cook County defendants released on electronic monitoring. Defendants charged with murder are up 444%. Armed violence is up 767%. Aggravated gun possession is up 436%. And felons in possession of a firearm are up 1,761%. And aggravated battery is up 178%. Hearing those statistics, along with all of the violent crime on the rise and repeat offenders continuing to be arrested, do you believe her? To show how ineffective electronic monitoring and the current catch and release program and process for dealing with repeat offenders isn't working, here's an excerpt from a recent article from CWB Chicago. When Emmanuel Romero appeared before Judge Charles Beach on a charge of Class X armed habitual criminal in September 2020, it was Romero's third felony gun case in 3 years. Police saw a loaded handgun lying at Romero's feet during a traffic stop on the 300 block of West Oak the night before. Beach ordered Romero to pay a $10,000 deposit to go home on electric monitoring and said, sometimes the third time is the charm. Sometimes, that is. On Tuesday, Romero was charged with having a loaded 9mm handgun with an extended ammunition magazine and a half-pound of marijuana inside his home, where he's supposed to stay on electronic monitoring. Sheriff's deputies found the gun and the contraband after receiving a tip, prosecutors said, and Romero also made comments about having cannabis and guns during a recorded phone call from jail, the state's attorney has said. But now he's charged with another Class X armed habitual count. And it seems the judge says it's an ongoing issue of you possessing weapons and ammunitions, it seems. Another example, which could have had a much more horrific ending, Terrell Hill is 40 years old, is accused of setting his ex-girlfriend's house on fire while she, her children, and other people were inside. Hill was on electronic monitoring for Class X armed habitual criminal, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and 6 other felonies stemmed from a separate domestic confrontation at the time of the alleged arson. Prosecutors said Hill texted his ex with threats to kill her and her children and then went to the women's home at 3:30 a.m. on July 5th. There he texted photos of himself standing outside of her front door and sent a message that she would see fire, prosecutors said. He poured gasoline on the front door, set it ablaze. Then did the same thing to the home's back steps, according to the prosecutors. There were 5 children and 2 adults inside the house at the time. Luckily, none were injured. Hill's fingerprints were found on a gasoline can at the scene, and a GPS tracker in his EM monitor pinged at the ex's house for over an hour around the time of the fire. They filed aggravated arson and electronic harassment charges against him last month, and now Hill, a 7-time convicted felon, was on electronic monitoring for allegedly, surprisingly, having a gun and threatening to shoot another ex-girlfriend last December. That's him. He has a gun, the woman screamed as police arrived at the scene about a week before Christmas. The officers chased him. He tossed the gun, which was equipped with an extended magazine, into a car as he walked away. And then he was then charged with 8 felonies, including Class X armed habitual criminal, possession of a stolen firearm, and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. A judge initially ordered him held in lieu of $100,000 bail with a requirement to go on another GPS monitor if he posted 10% of that amount. Another judge reduced the bail amount to $40,000 with electronic monitoring 6 days later. He's now being held without bail. So as you can see, over the last several years, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office has not provided consistent charging of crimes, especially violent ones. And this has definitely become a hindrance with the battle against crime. However, this legislation will help to balance the scales of justice and provide support to the local law enforcement agencies. This bill will also allow police departments to override the state's attorney or the assistant state's attorney's decision to reject these felony charges of designated continuing investigation. Representative Jim Durkin stated this pretty well recently. If police determine that there is clear and convincing evidence that a crime has occurred, then they will have the authority to override the state's attorney's decision. The state's attorney's office has been dumping a lot of cases, not rejecting them, but saying we're going to put them on continuing investigation. And that basically means they're just falling into the abyss, which leads to nothing. That is how she is able to keep her stats about felony rejections at a lower level. Keep in mind that she continues to state that she approves 85% of the cases, which means only 15 are rejected. Hiding cases and continuing investigations that never seem to end, it seems like a really good way to pad their statistics. So once again, Orland Park is reaching out to our legislation to step up to the plate and do the right thing and act. HB 4176 needs their support. We need to keep these criminals off the street. The ever-present revolving door for repeat offenders needs to be closed. Accountability needs to be served, not only to these criminals, but to the state's attorney's office to keep the criminals off the streets. Repeat offenders need to be held accountable for their actions and put where they belong, in prison. They say that prison doesn't always reform a criminal, but either does letting them back out. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Reardon.
World War II occurred, what's that, pardon me?
Trustee Healy.
Oh, thank you. World War II was probably one of the greatest examples of Americans volunteering and doing things when all these soldiers volunteered for war and military service in the Pacific and European theaters. Today, we're faced with another war out there, a social war that is, destroying our country, and we can see it. We are all citizens, and we're all asked to. All the rights and freedoms that we have. It's becoming more clear that they are not free. We have to act, and one of those things about acting is paying attention to what your elected officials are doing. You've got Kim Fox, you've got the Tim Evans, you've got Lori Lightfoot's the mayor there. They're part of all this movement that want to defund the police and just obstruct our justice system from what's historically maintained a law and order country. I'm asking people to please be aware that and look on and do your own homework and look at your representatives. The state senator here has voted to defund the police, and it seems like nobody cares about that. My state representatives have voted to defund the police. They don't represent me. I'd say just please start paying attention and becoming aware and realize that as a citizen you have to commit toward action if you want to maintain the freedoms that we have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Compass.
Our justice system relies on a series of procedures and rule of law to work properly. Our state has 118 representatives and 59 senators that write those laws. It takes 16 on a grand jury to indict someone and 12 on a petite jury to convict them. There are checks and balances to ensure due process and appeal processes, and we have a Supreme Court to interpret that law, and there are 7 Supreme Court justices. But in Cook County, it takes just one person to set a policy of dropping charges to address not the law, but their personal political agenda. We need an appeal process for that. We need a check and a balance on that type of power for just one executive who has such a huge impact on our safety. So therefore, I hope everyone reaches out to their representatives in support of HB 4176. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Reardon.
Not to repeat, among a number of the things I agree with. We've already tried some of this. We have to go to the federal government. Our police department has to work with the federal agencies already to try to get some of this stuff done. This is another step that we're trying to take. You know, I've been an attorney for 25 years, at law school before that. I've never seen anything like this, where we have these having to do end arounds of certain agencies to move forward something that we all should be considering, that we all should be working together on. The population of the jail is the lowest it's been in 40 years, and that's on purpose. That's not there's less crime. There's even more crime. There's a political purpose to what they're doing in terms of emptying the jails, and there may be some agenda to that, and there may be some reform that is needed that you read about. But emptying the jails all at once and doing this within a 2-3 year period of one administration is just absolutely reckless. It's bleeding into Orland Park. Every week, we get a report of what's happening in Orland Park, the guns that they're finding, the criminals that they're finding that have 3, 5, 7, 10 convictions. And they're back out, and our officers are seeing them again. They're confronting them. They're having physical altercations with these people. So somebody mentioned Tim Evans. The judges have a huge role to play in this. State's attorneys can do so much. I know I have a lot of family. I have friends that have been state's attorneys over the years, assistant state's attorneys over the years, and their hands get tied by these judges a lot as well. So they need to do their job. If this were to pass, which I'm not optimistic at this point, but I'm hopeful, the judges need to be part of this process, and they need to take and seriously look at these appeals if they're allowed to do this. So I wholeheartedly support it and echo some of the other things that were said.
Any other comments? Some of this might be a little repetitive from what I've heard, but our police department does an amazing job during these extremely tough times. The index crime in Orland Park is the lowest it's been since we started tracking it 27 years ago. Down another 14% so far this year, and violent crime is also down. And Chief, you've heard this many times. Thank you to you and your police officers for all that you do. We were #1 in the lowest violent crime per capita for towns over 50,000 residents in the state of Illinois. We were also rated the safest city in Illinois in 2020. Our department accomplished this in spite of many, many obstacles. There's been a push to defund the police from our state legislators and our congressional representatives. The passing of HB 3653, which tries to make criminals out of our police officers and prioritizes criminals over law-abiding citizens. HB 3653 also eliminated cash bail, so dangerous criminals are released to commit more crime while they are awaiting trial. Of course, it's after the next election that it goes into effect. Kim Foxx is already doing this, as was noted earlier. When she took office in 2016 compared to 2021, there are 444% more accused murderers, 767% more offenders accused of violent crime, 436% more of those accused of aggravated gun possession, and 178% of those accused of aggravated battery out on ankle monitoring. On ankle monitoring, because that stops them from committing a crime again, apparently. To top this off, we keep hearing from her and others about gun violence and the need to do something about it. As we've noted before, our officers are getting an illegal gun off the streets every 5 days. Every 5 days. Because of our proactive policing, though, I'm thankful we're finding them before they commit another one of those violent crimes, one of those index crimes. 1,761% more felons that were in a possession of a gun, felons in possession of a gun, which is yet another felony, are out on ankle monitoring under Kim Foxx, but she cares about gun violence. It gets worse. Ankle monitoring only addresses those that are charged, not all of the stuff that she's letting go and not even charging. We have had to resort to other avenues to keep these criminals off the streets. One of those is to go to the federal government and bring federal charges against these criminals. Here's an email that was forwarded to me, that was forwarded to Chief Mitchell just last week from the FBI, that came from the Assistant U.S. Attorney. Mr. Lawrence pled guilty today to counts 2, possessing 2 firearms in furtherance of drug trafficking crimes, and 3, unlawful possession of a firearm by a felon. He faces a mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years imprisonment. You did an excellent job on this investigation and were a pleasure to work with. Thank you for all of your hard work. This is someone that Kim Foxx didn't charge. Did not charge. And the feds charged. Minimum 5 years imprisonment. And he pled to it. It didn't even have to go to trial because the evidence was so great. And Kim Foxx didn't even charge it. How many other felonies are walking the streets because she wouldn't charge? This was a case that Kim Foxx refused to take from our police department. She and those that support her are responsible for this. They are making Cook County a haven for criminals, putting our police and our citizens at greater risk. Enough is enough. The House bill that we are supporting would allow our department and village to bring charges directly to court if the state's attorney refuses to prosecute a case. The state's attorney would then need to respond in writing and inform the victims if they continue to decline the case. The City of Chicago currently has this ability. This bill would allow others to do the same. In my opinion, this would bring much more transparency to the process, since the state's attorney would need to put on public record why they're refusing to try cases and acting like a public defender rather than a prosecutor. I urge our state representatives to do the right thing and put our citizens first and support this bill. Call the roll.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Peacock.
Aye.
Non-scheduled citizens and visitors.
So we have one here, and a reminder, you have 3 minutes for your comments. Patricia Kraus.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to discuss the inconsistencies of water billing. And I have been collaborating with my neighbors for the last couple of years, as well as submitted a FOIA request. And I had found that my bill has been a lot more than my neighbor 2 doors down who has several other people in their household. I also have a couple of neighbors here who recently got a $740 bill and an $800 and some bill. And this is unconscionable. They do not have a water leak, nor do I have a water leak. My other neighbor, a couple of doors down, she also has consecutive billing for the same amount. Randomly, it might be 1 month it would be $107.90, and 2 months later the bill is $107.90. How can that be? Over a period of many, I believe it was about 5 years, that happened 12 to 13 times. This needs to be looked into. Who currently is our contract for water billing in Orland Park? Is there a contract with any company that's doing our water billing?
Please make your comments. We don't engage in discussion when you're commenting.
Okay. I'll have to do research, I assume, to find out that information. I have another issue I'd like to talk about is I don't understand why the Village of Orland Park is giving contracts to Burke Engineering. I don't know if anybody in the room knows who Burke Engineering is. They led to the demise of all of the people of Crestwood, including my family. They are not a company that should be doing business in Orland Park. My son had leukemia, my daughter had a brain tumor, I lost a daughter, and I had colon cancer. I don't think this is of our best interest. I wanted to voice my opinion. I hope that you will take that into consideration.
Thank you for your comments. So what I will tell you is our water billing is done by our department, and I'm going to turn it over to the village manager in a second. But water billing is based on usage, and I too had a very high water bill this last time around. And as I pulled all my numbers, it's because it was so hot in September and October. I was running my sprinklers way more than I have in the past, because we can actually look day to day, and I think we can even go further than day to day to see exactly when your water is running. So we can do that, and we do that for residents to help them figure out if there's something in their usage pattern. But it is based on usage, and the water rates are set to basically break even on the water system, which includes the billings that we get from Oak Lawn, but also includes all of the water mains that we have to replace and the sewer system as well. So all of that is included, and we run it to break even. And we are doing a water rate study next year. We do them every 3 to 4 years to set our water rates for the future, and so we'll be looking at all of that as well. So George, if you want to jump in from there.
You know, and we have your contact information, and somebody from our finance department is going to reach out to you tomorrow, and they'll be able to schedule an appointment. We come out to your house, we can take a look at the meter and kind of explain all of the nuances for that. But just to piggyback on what the mayor said, everything that the village bills as far as water is concerned, our water and sewer fund is a self-supporting entity. It's a business. It's its own business. So it is a break-even, like the mayor said. We buy our water from the city of Chicago indirectly through Oak Lawn. So there are no markups. It is strictly a break-even business. So if there is a specific issue, we're going to have finance and public works work with you on that to resolve those issues.
And what I will add too is, and believe me, I had an $850 bill, which is the highest I've ever gotten, so I researched it. So I understand, I think we all understand the pain, but unfortunately, it's pass-through cost from the city of Chicago, it's pass-through cost from Oak Lawn, but it's also due to the infrastructure, but because we don't want to have what's happening in Dixmoor now, what happened in Michigan, in Flint, we don't want to have that happen, so we try and stay on top of all of our infrastructure. And when you look at when we were constructed and we grew a lot in the mid-70s to mid-90s. Well, those things right now, if you look at the ages on that, that's 30 to 50 years, we're having to replace all that stuff right now. So that's part of the reason why these costs are, because we have to replace those mains. If we don't stay on top of it, then we have a situation like we've had in other towns, and we definitely don't want that. So we continue to look at it. The other issue that we have as well is we have a second, people don't know this, we don't have a redundant water system right now. That's a fact. If we were to unfortunately get a water main break under the CalSag, I'm not exaggerating, when people in some of the suburbs, they're going to die because we will not have enough water for them. Okay. Now, fortunately, we've never had that, and we obviously monitor, the whole system monitors the CalSag to make sure that doesn't happen, but we've had water mains that have caused a lot of towns to get down to where they have no reserves left as we're trying to get those fixed. So there is a regional water project that gives us a second line that allows us to have a redundant system so that can never happen. And that's about an 8-year construction project, Rashid, right? And we've got, what, about 2 years left on that? 2 or 3? Yeah, about 3 years left on that, and that will allow everything that's on the system to have basically 2 lines, so that if something happens catastrophically to one, the other one can still get water. So the way systems are designed today, they're designed on a loop where you can do that. The old system that we have was not designed that way many, many years ago, decades or even a century ago. So all of the communities around us agreed to that. It was actually in place when I got here. It's a very expensive project, $250 million, and our portion of that, based on our usage, is about 26%. So it's an important project, but that too will get passed on through the water bills because we have to pay for it, and we have to pay Oak Lawn for the money that they have borrowed to do the system. So those are things that are coming as well, and we do everything we can as a community and as all the neighboring mayors to keep those costs as low as we can. And I know that direction's already been given to George and to staff in our budget meetings about ensuring how tightly we're looking at our water system. So. Any other comments from the board on that?
Time for board comments.
Any other people to speak? Okay, board comments. Trustee Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All I want to say is that if you were lucky enough to attend the Veterans Memorial, it was a wonderful event honoring our veterans, and I was duly impressed by Lieutenant Colonel Hannigan from I believe it's the Army Reserve, who spoke. Lieutenant Colonel Hannigan was a graduate of Sandburg High School, and he did an excellent job of connecting the citizens of Orland with their need to stay involved with the veterans. And it was a wonderful event. I was glad to be there. Thank you.
Trustee Reardon.
Thank you. They just walked out, but I wanted to make one more point about the water, is that Mayor Rahm Emanuel, before he left, gave a gift that kept on giving. He passed something in the city of Chicago that over every year, every 2 years, the water to pay for pensions was a huge revenue source to pay for pensions for increase the water cost, which is now being, of course, passed on to Oak Lawn, which is then being passed on to us. So they're in such bad shape in Chicago that they were looking for anywhere they could to pass through the cost. There's a huge article out about, I think it was last week, about it, so they just happened to walk out, but something they can look at. I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving that's coming up. There's a lot of activities going on. There's check our social media, sites for, there's both volunteer opportunities, turkey trot, things like that we'd love to see as many people out as possible. Congratulate Heinz McCarthy. We love it. Our family, we get it all the time. It's fantastic. Great honor, great family business. Been here, I've only been here 13 years, but it's been a staple, so thank you. Our sponsors, that's just amazing. I mean, it was already set up here, but to get that much support year in, year out from these sponsors, it's very nice to see. And hopefully people can get back to some family traditions over Thanksgiving. I think last year and even the year before were a little cut short on that, so I'm very much looking forward to some traditions and getting back together with family, so thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Radiszewski.
I too want to, make sure that I, tell everybody happy Thanksgiving. I hope that you have an opportunity to spend time with your family and, take a moment to think about, just the meaning of it, and just to be grateful for what we have. And I'm grateful for the friends and family and the people that I have supporting me in my life. And it's just an opportunity to, to make sure that you do that. And I want to thank also to our sponsors. You guys do a great job of helping us, helping the Village of Orland Park with all the events that we have. I know it was mentioned in the COW meeting, but I wanted to mention it again here and just to say thank you to all of our sponsors. And that's it. Hope everybody enjoys the holiday.
Trustee Milani.
Thank you, everybody, for coming this evening. First, I wanted to thank everyone that attended our Veterans Day event as well on Thursday, November 11th. We appreciate everyone that came to pay their respects to our veterans that have served our great country. And thank you for showing your gratitude by adding 6 new names to the memorial wall at Arapache. Also, earlier today, we recognized many sponsors, both large and small, at the Committee of the Whole that have supported our village with their gratuitous contributions, and we definitely appreciate their support. In July of 1863, the Battle of Gettysburg resulted in more than 50,000 American casualties. And despite these losses, the United States gained a great victory during these 3 days. On October 3, 1863, with this victory in mind as well as its cost, Abraham Lincoln issued a proclamation regarding Thanksgiving. And I'll quote from that. "I do therefore invite my fellow citizens in every part of the United States to set apart and observe the last Thursday of November next as a day of Thanksgiving. And I recommend to them that while offering up the ascriptions justly due to him, that they do also with humble penitence for our national perverseness and disobedience. Commend to his tender care all those who have become widows, orphans, mourners, or sufferers in the lamentable civil strife in which we are unavoidably engaged, and fervently implore the interposition of the Almighty hand to heal the wounds of the nation and to restore it as soon as it may be consistent with the divine purposes to the full enjoyment of peace, harmony, tranquility, and union." As I look back at the last few Thanksgiving holidays, I feel that Lincoln's message still carries meaning today. I feel that at times we've forgotten what we should be thankful for. We've forgotten how to work together. We've sometimes forgotten how to care. But instead of moving forward, our national perverseness and disobedience continues. For example, the abuse of powers through executive orders. People continue to be sufferers in the lamentable civil strife, such as recent examples of social unrest. And we most definitely need to heal the wounds of our great country and bring back peace, harmony, and tranquility, and restore the values that our Constitution provides before they are taken away from us forever. So as we approach this Thanksgiving, take a moment to think about one thing you can do to make a difference in someone's life. Think about how you can show that you are thankful for them, what they have done, and who they are. Hug a loved one. buy a meal, or simply make a phone call, or take a picture with someone, or shake someone's hand. Simple gestures can make a huge difference in someone's life. Be graceful, be thankful, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Trustee Compass.
I'd just like to add my voice in wishing everybody a very blessed and happy Thanksgiving season. Hopefully everyone will have time to rest and reflect on their blessings and gratitude for others. And then as we all too often very quickly move into the next season, I just want to remind everyone to please, whenever possible, shop and eat locally. And that's it. Thank you all.
Trustee Katsinas.
I just wanted to say it's nice to be back in my own seat. I liked being the big cheese, but I'm glad you're back. I just want to reiterate again about our sponsors. You know, we had a meeting earlier that we had some of the sponsors here, but we have an awful lot that weren't here. So if you look on our website, it will be posted there, and if we could support those who support us, because without their support, the programs wouldn't be what they are. So keep that in mind. And Heine's, thank you for being here. Longtime Orland family-owned business. Thank you very much. And to everyone else, have a very happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And I want to thank everyone for putting on the Veterans Day event, and I also want to thank all of our sponsors. And my comments tonight are going to be largely around the sponsors in our economy, which has generally thrived for over a century because of the many interconnections and relationships we've established year after year and decade after decade between businesses, between their customers and their employees, and businesses and other businesses. The challenges our businesses are facing, and I heard this tonight a little bit from the folks at Heine's, the highest inflation rate in decades, supply chain issues, labor shortages, all of these, et cetera. They are not happening because of COVID, as many would like you to believe. They are happening because of our reaction to it. Governors locked down small retail stores and restaurants while leaving big corporations open. Governors declared some workers essential while stating that others were not. Our governor paid state employees for doing nothing, while taxpayers who were out of work because they weren't essential continue to be gouged. Congress and governors paid people to not work via unemployment, more to not work via unemployment than they made in the jobs they previously held or they would make when returning to work. All of these actions had zero impact on the pandemic, but massively damaged our economy and destroyed the interconnections and relationships that make our economy strong. Labor shortages, supply shortages, inflation rates not seen in over 3 decades, gas prices doubling, and the list goes on. At the time these decisions were made, many people, including mayors and elected officials, pointed out that the decisions were bad and overreaching. Looking back, they were right. Now we have the actions taken by the president and the governor mandating vaccines. From this, we have witnessed massive travel disruptions, flight cancellations, supply chain disruptions. However, it is much, much worse than this. Healthcare workers, police officers, and firefighters, who were our first line of defense against COVID and put their own health and safety at risk, are being fired for not getting a vaccine. Unvaccinated employees with companies with federal contracts are being fired. 10 to 15% of the workforce for contractors in national defense and intelligence are being walked out the door. What could possibly go wrong? Keep in mind that even businesses that are 90% vaccinated are seeing 10% of their workforce fired. This is putting us all at risk. Emergency services, defense, police protection, fire protection, healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. This madness has to stop. We can live with COVID using common sense. Stop destroying our economy, our livelihoods, and our lives. However, here in Illinois, we don't stop. The governor and the legislature doubled down, specifically making COVID an exception to the Healthcare Conscience Act. Why would they do this? Because it gives businesses and government entities the unprecedented authority to enforce the governor's continuing mandates that are now over 20 times longer than allowed by law, and were just extended today for another 30 days. And this, for all of this, and this disease has little impact on children. And we're doing this to children. As of last week, approximately 2 million children in Illinois were in the hospital with COVID. In the last 10 months, there have been over 5 times that number of children killed from being shot in Cook County alone, mostly in Chicago. More than 5 times as many that have died from COVID since this began. And all of those had comorbidities, all of those children that died. Nationally, there have been 12 times as many child suicides than children who have died with COVID. Here are some of the latest Illinois COVID statistics. 5% of all hospitalizations currently are with COVID-like illnesses. 5%. Since mid-October, 24% of COVID-like hospitalizations were vaccinated, were people who were vaccinated, and 40% of COVID deaths were vaccinated. Given that 71% of everyone age 12 and over and 87% age 65 and over in Illinois are vaccinated, fully vaccinated, all this information tells us the vaccine does not stop the spread of this, but it appears to significantly reduce the severity of the disease in our most vulnerable population. So please talk to your physician and decide what to do, what is best for you. I'll also note that 72% of vaccinated COVID-like hospitalizations are over 65 years old, and 0% are under 17. 87% of vaccinated COVID-related deaths are over 65, and 0% are 17 or under. COVID remains a very challenging disease for our most vulnerable populations. So if you are feeling sick, please consult your physician immediately, as treatment regimens have improved greatly. I can't emphasize this enough for our senior population. If you feel sick, call your doctor. Get treatment early, because if you wait, you're going to get behind this and it's going to be problematic. Okay, we're still seeing that. COVID is not going away. And here in Orland Park, we've demonstrated that time and time again that we can live with COVID. We safely kept parks open when everyone else closed them. We safely held concerts when no one else in Illinois was doing them. We safely allowed youth sports teams to play tournaments here in Illinois instead of having to travel to Indiana to do so. We safely kept our police department strong and our citizens safe by educating our employees and allowing them to make decisions for themselves and not forcing anything upon them. We haven't mandated any of that on our police force. And if you recall, we also helped our seniors by providing transportation and sourcing vaccines from private businesses when the state refused to give us any. We got over 1,300 doses. Orland Park is a great community and an example of how we can still live our lives in spite of this pandemic. I hope others follow our example so that they can move forward in a positive way. I look forward to seeing all of you at the Christmas lighting, or the holiday tree lighting, on November 28th on Sunday. And what time is that? 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock? The festival starts at 4 o'clock, and the tree lighting is at? Is at 5. Okay, so the parade starts at 4, and the tree lighting starts at 5. So I'm glad I could get you the right time there. So thank you very much, and have a great and wonderful Thanksgiving. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
I move to go into executive session for A, approval of minutes, B, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performances, or dismissal of specific village employees, C, collective negotiating matters between the village and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules or one or more classes of employees, D, pending litigation against, affecting, or on behalf of the village, or when found by the board that such action is probable or imminent.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pekau.
Aye.